It's another week. It's another edition of the After Show brought to you by the Geeks and Company. My name is Jeff. That person over there is that Valkyrie girl. We also know her as editor Megan around here. We are the Geeks and Company. Thanks for tuning in to another week of the After Show. We are still watching The Legend of Vox Machina. We are on season 4. We are on season 1, episode 4. We are on a rewatch. If you are just joining us for the first time, welcome. Megan and I have both watched the show in its entirety. We are on a rewatch right now. Note, though, we have not actually watched any of the Critical Role campaign that this particular show is based on. We've just watched the show once through, so we're watching it through again just to pick up some little idiosyncrasies that maybe we missed the first time.
I'm pretty sure I messaged you as soon as I finished watching, and I was like, oh, I fully forgot about this episode. This episode's a lot. Like, not a lot.
There's not a lot of
like covering a lot of plot or things, but just it's intense.
It is, yes, it is. It is that. It is reminiscent of that first episode when Brimscythe just wipes out all those guards in a very, very brutal way.
Yep.
There's some similar shenanigans in this episode, which we will get to.
They are not shy about killing off those guards in a very gruesome way.
They are not. Speaking of guards, though, we do start off picking up right where last week left off. If you remember last week, our guys got arrested by the now sort of Jedi mind trick king. And in this case, he wants to just throw the book at them. Allura steps in and says, I'll handle this. You go off and do your thing. To which Vox Machina immediately says, like, that dude's been Jedi mind tricked. And Allura's like, that's a pretty bold statement. Do you have any proof? And they're like, well, no, but we could get it. And she's like, too bad. You're under house arrest. So all things considered, that's not the worst punishment that they could have. But of course, they have to immediately try to escape. So,
of course,
before that happens, though, as they're being house arrested, something happens. Someone makes an appearance.
I was gonna say I need to be on my trinket watch, and on my trinket watch, when they're first going back to the keep to get arrested, he's just there growling at one of the guards because they're going to be, I think, chaining him to a tree. They're keeping him outside as well.
Yes.
He is also on house arrest.
He is in the general keep area, but the Vox Machina are inside the keep. The bear is not inside the keep. He's locked up outside.
No,
the guards, by the way,
rude.
They confiscate. Yes, very, very, very rude. They confiscate all the Vox Machina's weapons, and the guards are very like, we're not here to mess around. If you guys try to escape, we will kill you. Like, they're very, actually, I think he says, we will execute you. If you, I was like, that okay. Like, he's not, this captain of the guard is not messing around. So they're all kind of sequestered in a room together. Percy is brooding heavily, a la Batman almost, and Pike is really having a crisis of consciousness. She's holding on to her broken Everlight amulet and just not really paying attention to what's going around her, because of course now we have everybody at a table and they're trying to sort of start figuring things out, which leads to Scanlan trying to read from this book. And he convinces the group that he can read it.
He's like, I totally know what's happening. I'm working on the translation. This is this, and this is pyramid, and this is that, and this is fuck you, Vex.
Fuck you, Vex. That's right. Or Vax, sorry. And then Vax and Scanlan have the best middle finger face-off that you could possibly imagine.
The whole time.
Yeah, to which, of course, Pike kind of slaps them down because she's still having a problem. And at this point, Vex is like, this is all great, but this is all stemming from one dude. And so Vex is like, hey, Percy, what the fuck is going on? You probably could have told us that they had murdered your whole family, but here we are learning this as they show up.
Yeah,
Percy gives us a brief...
whole, like, oh yes, because you all have shared everything about your past, but yeah, their pasts are not the things that are currently trying to kill them.
Yes. So a little bit of foreshadowing here, guys. So Percy gives us a brief rundown of the Briarwoods showing up at Whitestone and essentially being responsible for not only killing his entire family and seemingly just a whole heap of people on top of that, but also somehow turning the DeRollo house employees, I guess you would say, at least 2 or 3 different guys, like one of which looks way creepy.
Butler,
the tutor, the master at arms. Yeah, so we don't get a deep dive on it, but it does give you an indication as to why Percy was so triggered by the Briarwoods. Not only did he lose everything, including his sister, as they were escaping and trying to run away, but that the household staff also turned on them as well. It wasn't just the Briarwoods. So Percy's got like a list, which is a bit of foreshadowing that we're going to pick up on as we keep going on. While this is happening, Delilah, as they're like speeding back to Whitestone, her and Silas, she's going through her stuff, and it turns into a fuck. The book is gone.
Yep.
Delilah is a rather excitable human.
She is, and yeah, Silas was not concerned at all, which I don't know if that's his character or, as he mentions, it's like, well, you have a way to get it back.
Yeah, Silas is like, chill out, man. It's a book. We'll get it back. What's the problem? But Delilah's like, no, fuck this shit. Let's go to a graveyard, and I'm gonna do that voodoo that I do so well. And some bad things happening in this graveyard. We're not given a real good indication yet what Delilah's doing in the graveyard, but it's clearly some black magic fuckery happening.
Black smoke and purple magic, and her hands turning into demon claws, and yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. At this point, Percy, going through the keep now, has found a secret entrance to an exit that's going to get them outside the keep, and so they go through this rigmarole. And at one point, by the way, they're in a darkened tunnel, and they ask Pike to make light, and she can't. And she tells him flat out, I can't. So then Keyleth tries making light, and it looks like she's trying to focus like a little sun in the palm of her hands, and she can't either. But then they're at the exit, and they get out of the keep, and who's waiting for them on the lawn right exactly where that door opens up?
Yep, Captain of the Guard right there, which he then proceeds to separate them like children because they can't be trusted to be together.
Yep. Scanlan's like, fuck it, Doc. Because Scanlan's got all the best lines in this entire show. It's fantastic. And in fact, there's a really poignant moment that I really appreciated. I really like it when the show kind of like centers in and gives us some really cool character moments. Even though we're only in the 4th episode, but Vex and Vax are kind of having a conversation to themselves. Yeah, you're right. Everybody kind of gets separated. Pike is with Grog, Vex and Vax are together. And I think is it Percy, Scanlan, and Keyleth then? Percy and Keyleth and oh no, sorry, Scanlan is with Vex and Vax. That's right. Vex and Vax are kind of looking at the window, and they kind of share a moment where like, we could get out. We absolutely could get out. We couldn't take that lot with us, but we could escape here, no problem at all. And they kind of look at each other and they're like, we can't leave the friends. We can't leave the friends. Yep. So that was kind of a cool little moment. It didn't have to get penciled in like that, but it was nice that they showed that, you know, we're not just insufferable assholes all the time. We do in fact care about the other people in the group to the point where we could escape this, but we're not going to. We're going to stay so that we can all do it together.
We're going to stay with the team.
That's right. Pike and Grog, as we said, so they're in some kind of I don't know, it looks like Pike has fashioned some sort of a little temple inside the keep for her to weirdly enough, she doesn't call it praying. She calls it meditating. And I don't know where the disconnect is. I don't know if she's meant to be a priest, because that's clearly the way they have her presented from a Dungeons and Dragons perspective. Yeah. But they're very careful about, she's not praying, she's meditating and communing, but they say it's with her deity. Yeah. So it's very, the language surrounding her relationship with the deity is kind of weird. But as we find out in this moment, she can't reach her deity, no matter how hard she tries.
She cannot reach the Everlight. There's just this blank, they show like a void, basically.
Yeah, like an abyss or type
There's
of
a little
thing.
bit of light along the horizon, but like nothing that's reachable.
Now, as she's attempting to meditate and concentrate, someone's hungry and restless, and that would be Grog, who starts to ransack the room that they're in, looking for anything that might be ingestible, because I guess when you're that size, you're probably just eating and drinking all the time.
Just constantly.
Excuse me. While this is happening as well, outside, we do get some guards getting rather grotesquely messed up by something we still can't quite see yet.
Nope, all we see is just like black goo and arms reaching through their bodies.
Yeah, and then them slowly getting like crushed into the wall
sucked and, like, into themselves, almost like the life is being like drained from them. Very like they saw the Lost Ark and are now
yes. Yeah, very disturbing, and I wish I could tell you that that's the only scene here of guards getting dispatched in a very graphic and disturbing way, but it's not. Trust us on that one. It definitely is not. We then get another character moment. We get Percy and Keyleth, who have had very little sort of interaction up until now on the show, end up having sort of a heart-to-heart where Percy is very dedicated on trying to. He's got some stuff squirreled away, and it looks like he's trying to build something, as Percy tends to do. And Keyleth is like, yeah, I may never see my family again. I'm on my Aramante, I think is what she calls it, which is essentially her quest and her trials. And if she fails, then it's a tragedy and she won't become an Ashari, and she doesn't believe she's worthy. And Percy's like, that's a great story, but did they kill your whole family? Oh, they did not. That's correct. But for what it's worth, I think you're worthy. So Percy still has to be a prissy asshole for a moment, but then he kind of comes around and he empathizes with her a little bit and gives her maybe at the end of the day
a little bit of connection joining there, just a little bit,
and maybe giving her that little bit of confidence too, right? Like to let her know, like, I may be an insufferable stuck-up prick, but I still believe in you. And somehow coming from someone like that, it hits a little harder, right? Back outside, someone makes another appearance.
More trinket time. I was very happy with the amount of trinket time that was in this episode.
It was quite a bit of trinkets.
This was not a nice moment, although I am glad that he stayed okay. The one guard is like wandering over because Trinket's growling, and he's like, what's wrong, boy? There's nothing here. And then he proceeds to be murdered.
Yeah, black goo ensues. I think we started to get a sense of sort of what's happening, some otherworldly thing clearly connected to whatever shenanigans Delilah was up to in the graveyard is now forcing these spirits to attack the keep, as it were. Excuse me. The keep does get full-on attacked. The guards start getting off left, right, and center. The captain of the guard is convinced that Vox Machina is the one doing this, at which point the group finally gets all back together in one central room.
Yep. And
they realize rather quickly, first of all the lights and candles get extinguished. And then they realized what these creepy ghouls that have like sort of like they're almost like an immaterial, like they can phase through walls, they can phase through people. Can't hit them, can't touch them. They can absolutely mess you up, but you can't get to them. But then they realize what the ghouls are after.
They're going after that book.
So this might have been what Silas was talking about.
Hand off in trade for the way that they do it. Vex grabs it and throws it to Keyleth, and she turns into like a
rabbit.
Jekyll? A what? Sorry.
She looked like a bunny with horns.
Yeah, it's a rabbit with like the antlers.
Yeah.
And then she's running with that, swinging around. It's like playing keep away against the demons, spirits, things,
ghouls, something. Anyways, yeah, bad MFers, because again, every single member of Vox Machina, by the way, gets hit by these particular ghouls. They don't die quite as quickly as the guards because plot armor, but they still get pretty darn messed up.
Yeah, they start having the like gooey eyes, which I think at one point one of them even says like, "What's happening? I can't see." Like I can't see shit. Yeah.
I think that was Vex that said, "I can't see shit." Excuse me. So everybody is getting ghoulified and such, and Pike does try to make some light after seeing the captain of the guard lighting a torch and having some minimal effect on the specters or the spirits or whatever you want to call it, but that of course is extinguished almost immediately. Pike tries to make some light, but again she can't reach her god, so the light fails, at which point Percy finally looks over at Keyleth, who by the way is hiding under a table shitting her pants.
Yep, freaking out, not having a good time.
And Percy says something along the lines of, now is the time, Keyleth.
Yeah, it's time to prove yourself worthy.
Yes. And what does she do?
She gets out from under the table and just light. She has her tiny little sun that she made. And it is very, very bright. They actually cut away to being outside, and you see all the light coming out through the windows.
It was really, really well shot, even though you sort of know it's coming, that this is now like Keyleth, by the way. I've said this before. I'm going to say it now, and we're going to say it a whole bunch as this series continues. Vox Machina at 100% power is a picture of all of them. Vox Machina at 99% power is just a picture of Keyleth. Because this is shot really, really well, like you said. Like they're in the room, and she stands up, and then it pans back outside the keep, then it pans all the way back to a hillside where you can see the keep in the distance, and then this powerful blast of light happens, and you realize it is Keyleth inside. Now, I thought upon my initial watch, and even here on the rewatch, that this just destroyed the specters or the ghouls or whatever, but it doesn't. It does something else to them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it, like, burns them, it seems, but it stops at a certain point, and then it makes them, like, solid. So it turns them into, like, I guess, a flesh and bones creature again. So then the rest of them can just beat the holy shit out of them.
They do what they do best, is just fuck shit up. So, and that's exactly what they do. And eventually the specters, the ghouls, or whatever you want to call them, just kind of fade out.
Yeah, once the light goes away again, then the dismembered chunks of them just turn into goo and, like,
just
fade
turn
into
into
the
black
world.
goo. That's correct. Yes. Very, very Alien Prometheus vibes. We're not going to get into that. At which point the group kind of decides, maybe we should try to deal with this. And the captain of the guard is like, if you can find out who killed all my men, I'll give you your weapons back. I'll let you out of the keep. But I'm trusting you guys to go and find out who killed all my guys. So the guard, captain of the guard, kind of a cool dude, not going to lie, kind of won me over in this episode. I don't know if we get a lot more of this dude later on, but very, very appreciative of this one. Percy tries to sneak out on his own.
I would say, packing a bag, getting ready to go, and then he gets caught by the entire group.
Yeah. So this is kind of like, again, what we talked about earlier with Vex and Vax having that moment. They're like, we could leave on our own, but we're going to stay because of the group. That was a bit of foreshadowing, I think, to this moment where Percy's trying to sneak out on his own, and the group's like, nuh-uh. We know where you're going. We know what you're going to do. We're going with you, and we're going to help. Scanlan even decides to come along, and Scanlan, according to him, is a snack. And
He isn't a snack. He wouldn't have survived.
He would not have done well in prison. He's entirely too pretty. He is very much a snack. Excuse me. We then get one tearful goodbye anyway, as the group is going to leave. Someone's got to stay back at the keep to make sure that the keep, I don't know, somehow doesn't fall down or something. Boy, we sure could use an armored bear in Whitestone on this adventure while we're going to be fighting Briarwoods and everybody else. This armored bear would be great, but hey, you stay at the keep, Trinket, you giant, powerful bear wearing armor with claws and fangs and shit. You stay here. We're going to go off.
We do not risk Trinket. Trinket stays where Trinket is safe.
Lame. By the way, this will be another continuing theme throughout the entire show. As you can tell, Meg and I are just yelling over each other about Trinket and Trinket's value to the group, which, by the way... Anyways, as the group goes to leave after the tearful goodbye to Trinket, another tearful goodbye ensues. And I'm not going to lie, this one got your boy a little bit when I was watching it. And this was even the second time I was watching it. And it still kind of hit me a little bit. Yeah. Pike decides she's got to find a way to get in touch with her god and re-find her faith. And the only way for her to do that is to go to an actual temple to the Everlight, which clearly is not anywhere close or on the way to wherever it is they're going to be going in Whitestone.
Yeah.
So she essentially says goodbye to the group, but more to the point,
says goodbye
someone's hurt. Is very, very broken. In fact, Grog's first was like, yeah, no problem. We'll go together, just like the old times.
Yeah.
Pike's like, no, I have to do this on my own, and they need you. And Grog says...
Grog's just like, but what if I need you?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
My emotions.
Yeah. The show is not really, I guess, known for having that powerful and emotional connection between some of the characters, but in this case it definitely it got everybody that was watching this. I'm sure this is my second time watching it and I was still like regardless, Pike decides she's got to figure this out on her own, so the rest of the group does leave. By the way, this was the weird part. It kind of took me out of it a little bit because her and Grog had this very nice, tearful, huggy goodbye. And then Grog stands up, and the rest of the group, by the way, just turns and leaves. Like they none of them stop to kneel down, say goodbye, give her a hug, nothing. They just turn to go immediately as soon as Grog stands up. So Grog does kind of catch up, but he does look back one last time at Pike. Will Pike rejoin the group at some point? Will we ever see Pike again? You'll have to tune in to find out. This particular episode, like you said earlier, and I compared it to the first episode, was really brutal. The action in this one was not for the weak of heart. It was very in your face, and I understand too, even using the black in place of what would have been blood and guts. I get that, but somehow in certain ways, especially when it's like coming out their eyes, it actually made it a little bit worse than it would have been if it was blood, as opposed to the black. I should mention as well, one thing I did want to say that I didn't when they were questioning Percy, that it wasn't just, hey, you're keeping secrets. Keyleth specifically brings up the smoke.
Yeah, just like, and I want to know about smoke.
Percy tries to just blow it off like, oh, it's my gun. My gun uses black powder and it creates smoke, and that it's kind of dropped at that point, but it's at least they know, and especially Keyleth seems to be the one that's keying into this. She saw the Jedi mind trick that Silas put on the king, and now she's seen what's going on with Percy as well. Keyleth's got a keen vision for this kind of stuff, being the key magic user of the group now. In fact, Pike tells Keyleth as they're splitting up, you're their light now. Yeah. And as you're going to see, guys, as the joke I keep making, Keyleth is a lot more than just the group's light. You're going to find out Keyleth pretty much is the group. Pretty good episode, not going to lie. I do remember enjoying this episode, even though it felt like a bit of a side story, but it still helped to forward the plot. And by the way, there is forwarding of the plot for this whole Whitestone, Derolo, Briarwood thing. It does take a little while to get there, but hang in there, guys. It's the juice is definitely worth the squeeze on this one. Thank you for joining us this week, guys. Please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down there. Throw a comment below if there's anything that you caught in this episode, especially if you're doing what we're doing is on a rewatch that we didn't quite catch, or maybe a bit of foreshadowing or whatever caught your eye that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about. Go ahead and put it in the comments below. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Stay geeky, everyone.